Rain lashed the jagged ruins of the planet's surface, each droplet crackling with faint violet electricity as it collided with the jagged stone towers. The sky overhead was a roiling mass of storm clouds, torn open by jagged forks of lightning that illuminated the devastation below. Among the fractured monuments of a civilization long gone, a lone figure moved. She was small, her skin faintly luminescent, like a candle flickering in the dark. Yet her glow did nothing to ward off the shadows that seemed to crawl from the ruins themselves. She had no name, or perhaps it had been lost to memory. Her eyes were vast pools of silence, reflecting the storm above, the lightning flashing across her face like fractured mirrors. She had never spoken, not out of choice, but because the world had stolen her words before she even knew how to use them. Every sound, every whisper of wind, every crash of thunder was a threat. Survival demanded stillness, demanded quiet, as she crept along a cracked pathway. The ruins groaned under the weight of their own decay. A section of a tower collapsed nearby, sending a cloud of dust and sparks into the air. She froze instantly, pressing herself against the jagged stone wall. Her glowing hands hovered inches above the ground, trembling. In the shadows, something stirred a movement, too deliberate to be the storm's fury. She didn't run. Running would attract attention, and she had learned long ago that attention was dangerous. Instead, she watched, her breathing shallow, counting the seconds until whatever was moving would pass. The wind carried whispers, fragments of language from long-dead civilizations, but she understood none of it. Only the storm spoke clearly here, and it demanded vigilance. Lightning forked again, this time closer, illuminating the ruins' interior. Broken statues, twisted metal, and shattered crystal reflected in sharp fragments across the walls. She pressed herself deeper into the shadows, every muscle coiled, every sense straining. Then she saw it, a movement unlike any storm-created shadow. Something alive, something deliberate. Her heart, a fragile organ she barely trusted, skipped a beat. The creature paused, its shape tall and humanoid, though alien in proportions, its head elongated and hands tipped with clawed fingers. It sniffed the air, its eyes glowing faintly red, scanning for prey. Silence was her only ally. She held her breath, willing herself to melt into the darkness, to become part of the ruins themselves. Time stretched. The storm roared louder, thunder smashing against stone walls, the violet sparks dancing closer. The creature moved, slowly, deliberately, its claws scraping against shattered metal. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, it turned and vanished into the shadowy corridor. She waited a heartbeat longer, then slid forward, body pressed low, skin pulsing faintly with fear. She didn't notice the light at first, a soft, warm glow, in the distance artificial, not storm-born, cut through the violet darkness. Her instincts screamed caution. Nothing alive had ever approached these ruins without intent to harm. And yet, there was something different about this glow. It didn't feel hostile. Curiosity, fragile and dangerous, tugged at her. She inched closer, every step measured, her mind alert for any sign of betrayal. She could not speak, could not ask, could not even warn herself if danger returned. Silence was her shield. Yet something about this new presence, the warmth, the light stirred a strange sensation inside her, a fluttering she hadn't felt in countless cycles of storm and ruin. The glow pulsed softly now, as if inviting her, challenging her caution. For the first time in memory, the ruins didn't feel empty. A new force had entered her world, a presence unlike any shadow or storm. She did not understand it yet. She only knew that, somehow, it mattered. And for the first time, she allowed herself to hope. The soft glow grew brighter, cutting through the violet storm like a warm beacon. The alien girl crouched low among shattered stone, her pulse quickening with both fear and curiosity. Every instinct screamed caution, but something about this light, it was different. It wasn't the flicker of lightning or the fire of a distant ruin collapsing. It was deliberate, controlled human. The sound came first, a low hum, metallic and steady, echoing off the jagged ruins. A small ship hovered just above the cracked surface, thrusters battling the violent wind. Sparks from the engines scattered like fireflies as the pilot adjusted his position against the storm. She had never seen anything like it. Her wide eyes reflected the machine's glow, her breath catching. The hatch hissed open, and a figure stepped out. Human, tall, broad-shouldered, and moving with cautious confidence. He carried no visible weapons, only a scanning device emitting soft pulses of blue light. His eyes, wide and alert, scanned the ruins methodically. She froze, her heart pounding. The creature from before was still out there somewhere, lurking in the shadows, but the human seemed oblivious. His presence felt alive, but not threatening. There was a strange calm in the way he moved, a patience that made her instinctual fear falter just slightly. The storm roared, lightning fracturing the clouds overhead. The girl pressed herself against the side of a broken tower, trying to make herself invisible, yet the glow from her skin betrayed her. She was caught between curiosity and terror. She had never trusted anyone. No one had ever approached her world without intent to harm. And yet, this human moved differently. He stopped, crouching, as he scanned a fallen statue. The hum of his device grew sharper, almost musical, resonating through the ruins. She tilted her head, fascinated despite herself. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, she inched closer. Her glowing hands hovered above the cracked stone, trembling, her body poised to flee if danger emerged. Then a shadow flickered behind him, a predator from earlier, drawn by her faint light. Its eyes glowed red, its claws scraping against jagged metal. She stiffened, expecting the worst. The human turned at the last second, scanning the area. But he did not flee or attack. Instead, he adjusted his scanner, producing a pulse that sent the predator retreating. Confused and unnerved by the unfamiliar sound, for the first time, she felt a spark of something she hadn't experienced in cycles of storm and ruin: safety. The predator vanished into the shadows, leaving only the storm and the human's gentle hum behind. She exhaled slowly, her first voluntary breath in what felt like an eternity. The human looked around, as if sensing her presence. His eyes softened, scanning the ruins with patience. He crouched lower, extending a hand toward the shadows without stepping too close. The gesture was small, cautious, but unmistakably an offer of trust. She hesitated. Every instinct screamed that approaching was dangerous, that silence was her only shield. Yet something compelled her forward. One tentative step, then another. The hum of the device, the warmth of the ship's glow, even the steady rhythm of the storm, it all drew her closer. A spark of hope flickered within her, fragile and trembling, like a candle flame in a hurricane. Perhaps not all beings in the universe sought to harm. Perhaps some could bring light where only shadows had reigned. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine it, a presence beside her, offering something she had forgotten existed: joy, safety, connection. The storm continued to rage, but the ruins felt a fraction less hostile. And in the distance, the human waited, patient and watchful, unaware that a fragile bond had already begun to form in the silence. The storm above had not relented, but beneath its relentless fury, a fragile silence stretched between the alien girl and the human. She crouched behind a shattered pillar, her glowing skin flickering faintly like a pulse of fear. The human Captain Elias Can stood a few meters away, scanning the ruins with his low humming device. He made no sudden movements, no aggressive gestures, yet every second felt like an eternity. Her gaze followed him carefully. Each careful step he took shifted the dust and shards of metal on the ground, creating tiny sparks that danced in the violet haze. She had never seen any creature move with such patience, with such intent to avoid harm. Curiosity gnawed at her, even as fear held her frozen. Elias crouched lower, the hum of his scanner now soft and melodic, almost like a lullaby in the chaos of the storm. He reached out his hand slowly, palm open, and spoke words she couldn't understand. The sounds were gentle, carefully measured, not a command, not a threat, but an invitation. The alien girl tilted her head, hesitant. Her instincts screamed to retreat. She had learned long ago that every approach carried danger. Yet the light in his eyes was different. Tit did not waver, even under the storm's violet fury. She moved a tiny step forward, testing her courage. The air felt electric, charged not only with the storm, but with possibility. A sudden crack of thunder rolled through the ruins, rattling loose stones from the collapsed towers above. Dust and debris fell around them, a sharp reminder that this world offered no safety. She froze, pressing herself to the stone, but Elias did not flinch. Instead, he lifted a hand, as if to calm the storm itself. Then came movement, a shadow slinking along the ruined walls, sleek and predatory. The same red-eyed creature from before, its claws scraping against broken metal. Her pulse surged. Fear threatened to paralyze her entirely. But Elias did not panic. He activated a pulse from his scanner, sending a wave of energy that made the predator hesitate, ears flicking, confused by the unfamiliar signal. It paused, then slunk back into the shadows. The girl exhaled slowly, her first voluntary breath since the storm began. Relief mingled with wonder, a strange sensation that left her trembling. She took another tentative step forward, her glowing hands casting flickering shadows on the stone. The human did not move, did not speak louder, he simply waited, slowly. She allowed herself to inch closer, curiosity now winning over fear. The air between them shimmered, charged with something neither storm nor predator could destroy, the potential for trust. She watched him carefully as he knelt beside a fallen fragment of the ruined tower, pointing at it, showing it to her without words. The gesture was small, but it carried meaning, an unspoken invitation to understand, to engage. Her hands twitched, hesitant. She mimicked the motion, touching the stone fragment, feeling its rough edges, sensing its solidity. Elias smiled, a quiet, patient curve of lips, and the alien girl felt something she hadn't felt in cycles. Recognition, a connection, fragile and trembling, but undeniably there. The storm raged on, rain and lightning clashing like titans above, yet for a brief moment, the ruins seemed almost quiet, almost safe. The predator lurked unseen, the darkness still threatening, but a fragile bridge had formed. In that fragile silence, a single truth became clear. Perhaps not all beings sought to harm. Perhaps some could bring light where only shadows had ruled. And perhaps, just perhaps, she could allow herself to hope, for the first time. She imagined it, a presence beside her, patient, steady, offering something she had long forgotten: joy, connection, the first faint glimmer of a life beyond fear. The storm had lessened, though the clouds still churned violet and silver above the jagged ruins. Lightning arced across the sky intermittently, illuminating broken towers and shattered spires like fleeting specters. For the first time since the alien girl had wandered these ruins, the world did not feel entirely hostile. The presence of the human, Elias Kane, brought a strange warmth. A light she had not known existed. He crouched before her, holding a handful of small, glowing stones, harvested from the ruins. Each stone levitated slightly above his palm, suspended by some strange energy field from his scanning device. "Watch," he murmured, though she did not understand the words. The stones began to spin slowly, orbiting each other like tiny planets. Their soft light cast fractured reflections on the broken walls, illuminating her wide eyes. The alien girl tilted her head, mesmerized. She had never seen motion like this, never light that danced without burning. Her instincts screamed caution, yet curiosity tugged her forward. She extended a trembling hand, hovering over the floating stones, and hesitated. A faint pulse of fear ran through her. But the human's calm patience held her back from retreating. Then, a distant screech echoed through the ruins. The predator. It had not abandoned its hunt. Its claws scraped against twisted metal and shattered stone as it moved closer. Her body froze, heart hammering, ready to flee. Elias did not panic. Instead, he waved a hand, sending the stones spinning faster, creating a protective halo of light around them. The predator paused, red eyes narrowing, and retreated into the shadows. Confused and wary of the unusual energy, she gasped. A soft, almost involuntary sound, startled by the duality of fear and wonder. Elias smiled gently, never once threatening her, only showing that the chaos of the world could be managed even tamed. Tentatively, she reached out, allowing the orbiting stones to circle her fingers. Light shimmered across her glowing skin, reflecting in fractured rain puddles on the stone floor. The first sound she made intentionally was delicate, almost musical, as if the storm itself had coaxed it from her. It startled her, then startled Elias. The floating stones pulsed with each laugh, like they were responding to her joy. The predator remained in hiding, but for the first time, she realized that her emotions, her happiness could wield power in this dangerous world. Elias extended another hand, this time gesturing for her to try more. She spun the stones with her fingers, giggling softly as the motions became instinctive. The ruins, once oppressive and threatening, seemed to vibrate with life, shadows retreating in the glow of their playful energy. For a brief, radiant moment, the storm, the predator, and the desolation faded into the background. Yet even in this fragile joy, tension remained. A distant rumble warned that the predator might return or something worse. Her eyes flicked to the shadows, then back to the human, and she understood without words. Together, they were stronger. The human was not just offering companionship, he was showing her that delight itself could be a shield, a weapon, a bond. In the swirling violet mist, she laughed again, brighter this time, letting herself be unafraid. The stones whirled, her laughter echoed, and for the first time, she felt the universe responding to her, not threatening, but acknowledging. The bridge between her silence and the human's patience was growing. Forged in play, wonder, and fragile trust, for the first time, the alien girl realized she could feel something more than fear. She could feel joy. The brief moment of wonder faded as a distant rumble shook the ruins. The alien girl froze, her glowing skin flickering like a dying flame. The predator, something far worse, was coming. Elias sensed it too. His eyes narrowed, scanning the fractured towers and jagged stone as the storm above intensified. Lightning struck closer, casting the ruins in stark, violent contrasts of shadow and light. From the darkness, shapes moved fast, deliberate, and deadly. Scavengers, alien hunters drawn to the energy of the human's device and her luminous presence, emerged from the ruins. Their forms were twisted, almost skeletal, with claws that scraped sparks from metal and jagged stone. Their red eyes glowed like embers in the shadows, reflecting menace and hunger. The alien girl's instinct screamed for flight. She pressed herself against a shattered pillar, her pulse hammering. The predator that had stalked her before was joined now by multiple enemies, their movements synchronized, calculated. Every step she had taken, toward curiosity and trust, suddenly felt perilous. Elias moved instantly, activating a pulse from his scanning device. A wave of energy burst outward, scattering sparks across the ruined floor. The scavengers hissed, momentarily disoriented, but they quickly recovered, advancing relentlessly. The storm's violet lightning flashed, highlighting the desperate ballet of predator and prey. The girl's fear was raw, almost paralyzing. She wanted to run, wanted to hide, but Elias held out a hand, not demanding, only offering guidance. For the first time, she realized that she wasn't entirely alone. His calm presence was a tether in the chaos, and she clung to it, trembling. Elias darted forward, using the ruins as cover, flipping shards of stone to create obstacles. Sparks and lightning danced around him, reflecting off his armored suit. He was human, yes, but fearless in a way that transcended their small size. He turned, gesturing for her to follow. Hesitant, she mirrored his movements, her glowing skin barely concealing her terror. A scavenger lunged from a collapsed wall, claws aimed at her. Elias intercepted it, firing a pulse that staggered the creature. The alien girl stumbled, tripping over debris, but he caught her just in time, pulling her behind a massive stone fragment. The storm roared, their breaths came in short gasps, and the glow from her skin mixed with the human's device into a kaleidoscope of light. The predators regrouped, circling them. The ruins seemed to shift, walls closing in, corridors narrowing. There was no clear escape. Every instinct screamed danger, but Elias whispered, though she could not understand the words, "Stay close. Trust me." His voice, calm and deliberate, was an anchor. For a moment, the alien girl hesitated, fear warred with the fragile trust she had begun to feel. Then, in a flicker of courage she did not know she possessed, she reached out, touching the floating stones Elias had left behind. The stones responded to her touch, orbiting faster, forming a protective barrier that glimmered against the scavenger's approach. The predator and its allies hissed, confused by the sudden surge of energy. Elias used the moment, leading her through a narrow corridor, the glowing stones lighting their path, the storm raging outside like a furious sky god. They moved as one, human strategy and alien instinct intertwined. For the first time, the alien girl understood something profound. She was not helpless. Fear was still present, but so was power, courage, and trust. And with these, even in the darkest ruins, survival and, perhaps more, was possible. The ruins trembled as the scavengers regrouped, their red eyes cutting through the violet storm like blades. The alien girl's heart pounded, her glowing skin flickering with fear. Yet somewhere beneath the panic, a new sensation stirred, a strange, exhilarating thrill. She had survived the predators before, but now, side by side with the human, something felt different. She felt powerful. Elias led her into a narrow cavern carved into the ruins, walls shimmering with bioluminescent flora that pulsed in rhythm with the storm. The predator horde hesitated at the cavern entrance, unable to navigate the narrow passage. The alien girl exhaled slowly, her first conscious breath of relief, but the tension lingered. Outside, the storm raged, thunder rattling stone-like drumbeats of war. "Try this," Elias whispered, gesturing toward the floating stones still orbiting in the air. He had arranged them in a delicate pattern, spinning slowly. The girl stared at them, unsure. But then, on impulse, she reached out and touched one. It reacted immediately, spinning faster, orbiting her fingers as if alive. A tiny laugh escaped her lips, a pure, musical sound that startled both herself and Elias. She had not spoken in cycles of memory, and yet the sound felt natural, like a spark of light in the darkness. The stones pulsed with her laughter, forming a protective barrier around them, light flashing in response to the vibrations. The scavengers outside hissed, confused and unnerved by the energy radiating from the cavern. The girl's laughter grew, bubbling into joyous, uncontrolled peals. Each sound resonated with the stones, sending waves of force that created a luminous shield against the predators. For the first time, she realized that her voice, her joy, could be a weapon of power she had never imagined. Elias watched her with awe, guiding her subtly, his hands moving in tandem with hers to amplify the stone's orbit. "Yes, like that," he murmured, and though she did not understand the words fully, she understood the meaning. Together, they were unstoppable. A scavenger attempted to force its way into the cavern, claws scraping the floor. The alien girl screamed a high, pure note and the energy from her laughter exploded outward. The creature shrieked, stumbling backward, disoriented and blinded by the sudden light. Another predator followed, only to be repelled by the pulsing barrier. The ruins echoed with the sound of her first real joy, shattering the oppressive silence that had defined her life. She looked at Elias, her eyes wide, glowing with newfound confidence. He smiled, a brief but radiant curve, encouraging her without words. The storm outside seemed to pause for a heartbeat, as if acknowledging her triumph. The ruins that once whispered fear now shimmered with possibility. Her laughter rang again, louder this time, as the stones spun faster and faster around her. She realized something extraordinary. Her silence had not been weakness, it had been dormant power. Fear had hidden it, but joy had awakened it. She could protect herself. She could fight. She could be more than a passive observer in this cruel, storm-ravaged world. For the first time, she understood that she did not need to remain silent. She could speak or laugh and change the world around her. The predators would no longer dominate her. The ruins would no longer cage her. And in that luminous cavern, surrounded by spinning stones and the gentle hum of the human's device, she discovered something even greater: connection. Trust, courage, and joy could coexist, and together they were unstoppable. The storm outside had dimmed to a low, persistent rumble, but the ruins were far from safe. Collapsing towers and jagged stones still threatened to crush anyone caught in their path. The alien girl moved cautiously beside Elias, her glowing skin casting soft, wavering light across the jagged floor. She no longer hid behind pillars or froze in fear. The events in the cavern had awakened something new: confidence, tinged with caution. Elias led her through a narrow corridor, the walls lined with crystalline structures that reflected their light in fractured rainbows. Each reflection shimmered like tiny specters, distorting shapes and shadows, keeping them on edge. She had learned to trust him, but her instincts remained sharp. Danger could be anywhere. Suddenly, a section of the ceiling collapsed, sending a shower of debris toward them. Elias reacted instantly, grabbing her and pulling her behind a massive crystal shard. Sparks flew as metal and stone collided, fragments bouncing dangerously close. She gasped, but the protective barrier of trust between them felt tangible now, stronger than any fear. "Stay close," Elias murmured, his voice calm but firm. She didn't understand the words fully, but she felt their meaning. She moved as he moved, instinctively following his lead. Every step was measured, every motion calculated, yet natural trust guiding her as much as caution. They reached an open chamber, where a narrow bridge spanned a chasm, illuminated by bioluminescent veins in the walls. Below, the ruins stretched endlessly, shadows shifting in rhythm with the faint storm outside. Crossing would be perilous. One misstep meant falling into the darkness below. She hesitated, toes gripping the edge of the bridge. Elias extended a hand. It was not commanding, not demanding. It was an invitation. For the first time, she reached out, letting her small fingers brush his. The touch was electric, warm against the cold metal and stone of the ruins. A shiver ran through her, but it was not fear, it was trust. Fragile but undeniable. Halfway across, the bridge quivered, stones cracking beneath their feet. The alien girl froze, but Elias's steady grip anchored her. He adjusted their weight, whispered softly, and she mirrored his movements, each step synchronized, each heartbeat echoing theirs. The storm's distant thunder and occasional flashes of lightning added tension. Yet the trust they shared acted like armor against the chaos. When they reached the other side, she exhaled, a long, quivering breath. She looked at Elias, eyes wide, glowing faintly. For the first time, she understood that trust was not about words. It was about presence, protection, and shared experience. He had guided her safely through danger without ever forcing her to move faster than she could. The ruins ahead stretched wider, a labyrinth of fractured towers and crystal-lit corridors. Elias motioned toward a faint glow at the far end, a possible safe zone. She nodded subtly, her fingers brushing the floating stones she had learned to command. Light pulsed softly around her, almost as if sensing her resolve. In that moment, she realized something profound. Courage and trust were inseparable. The human had not only kept her alive, but had taught her, without words, that survival was not just about strength, it was about partnership. She could face the darkness, the storm, and the predators outside, because she was no longer alone. As they moved forward, the shadows shifted around them, the storm whispered its warnings, and distant predators stirred. Yet for the first time, she felt a spark of joy mingled with confidence. Together, she and the human were not just surviving, were building something new, fragile and powerful, trust that could withstand even the most relentless chaos. The ruins stretched endlessly before them, jagged towers piercing the violet sky like shattered teeth. The storm had ebbed, leaving a tense, uneasy calm. But danger lingered. The scavengers, the predators who had pursued them, relentlessly emerged from the shadows, their glowing red eyes scanning for movement, claws scraping against stone and metal. The alien girl stood beside Elias, her glowing skin pulsing in sync with her heartbeat. The floating stones orbited around her fingers, faster and brighter than ever before. She had learned to harness their energy through joy, through laughter, through the courage she had found alongside him, and now, that power was about to be tested. The scavengers charged, claws raised, teeth bared, their growls echoing through the ruins like rolling thunder. Elias moved first, deftly deploying energy pulses from his scanner to scatter the attackers, creating openings. The girl watched, calculating, then stepped forward. She laughed, a pure, ringing sound that seemed impossible in the desolate ruins. The stones responded instantly, spinning violently, casting blinding light across the cavernous landscape. The scavengers screeched, recoiling from the radiant barrier. Each note of her laughter sent ripples of energy outward, forcing the predators back step by step. For the first time, she realized the full extent of her power. Silence had not been weakness, it had been untapped potential, waiting to be awakened. Elias followed, moving in rhythm with her, guiding her energy to amplify the effect. They worked as one, human ingenuity and alien instinct intertwined, each complementing the other. The predators, relentless and adaptive, tried again and again to breach the barrier, but the girl's joy formed an impenetrable shield. The ruins themselves seemed to respond, crystal shards pulsing with the energy of her laughter, reflecting light in dazzling, kaleidoscopic patterns. A particularly massive scavenger lunged, faster and more aggressive than the others. The girl gasped, but Elias grabbed her hand, steadying her. Together, they focused. Her laughter rose into a triumphant crescendo, and the stones flared like tiny suns. The predator shrieked and tumbled backward, disoriented, blinded, finally retreating into the shadows. The remaining scavengers hesitated, their confidence broken by the alien girl's power. Elias seized the moment, signaling for them to follow him toward a narrow corridor that led to safety. She obeyed instinctively, not out of fear, but because trust and connection had become second nature. Each step forward was a declaration. They would not be intimidated. They would not remain prey. Finally, they emerged into a wide chamber where the first rays of sunlight pierced the violet clouds, reflecting off crystalline towers and broken walls. The ruins glowed softly, no longer oppressive, but almost welcoming. The alien girl paused, her glowing hands still orbiting the stones, and let herself laugh again, free and unrestrained. Elias turned to her, smiling warmly. She looked at him and, for the first time, spoke a full sentence. The words were simple, almost fragile, but heavy with meaning. Thank you. Yet even without words, the laughter, the glowing stones, and the shared struggle had spoken far more. The alien girl had discovered joy, power, and connection. The human had given her not just safety, but the ability to reclaim her voice, her laughter, and her life. As they stood together, the ruins bathed in sunlight and violet shadows, the storm finally faded. She looked at Elias, at the ruins, and at the horizon stretching endlessly beyond. For the first time, she understood a universal truth. Fear and silence may shape a being, but joy and connection can transform it. And in that transformation lay the greatest legacy of all: hope, courage, and the enduring gift of shared humanity.